So first up, we have a new feature called Sync Scene. And the way that you use this is you need to be inside of the library mode. It won't work if you're in the develop mode. And you need to already have one image already edited the way you want it inside of Negative Lab. So I've already gone through the process and converted this and made the edits that I want. And then inside of the library mode, you can select your master photo and then select the other photos that you want to sync. Pull up Negative Lab, and now you see that there's a button down here for Sync Scene. So I'll hit Sync Scene, and it will basically make these exactly the same settings inside of Lightroom as this initial one and carry over all of the metadata so that we can edit it further inside of Negative Lab Pro. So just to show you, I can come in here now, and you can see that all the settings have carried over. So I could come in and I could make this brighter or darker. I can edit anything I want, but it gives us the same starting place. And if we come and look at the tone curve, well, I just made an edit there, but the tone curve is exactly the same. All the settings are exactly the same, and it's a really neat feature if you want to get the exact same settings across multiple photos but still be able to edit it. Because if I were to come in here and edit this one from scratch inside of Negative Lab Pro, because the scene is a tiny bit different, the conversion would look just a little bit different because there's probably a slightly different black point and white point that it would calculate from going in and looking at this. So Sync Scene just gets it perfectly across all of them. And I think this is going to be a really popular new feature, especially for people like wedding photographers who want to make sure that they're getting some consistency in shoots that they're doing. The next feature I'll show you is there's a new tone profile called Linear plus Gamma. The previous linear tone profile didn't account for gamma correction, and so it often is kind of bright and washed out. If you want to get something that's closer to probably the actual neutral interpretation of the film, Linear plus Gamma is the way to go. And then of course you can always go in and add more contrast, make it brighter, make it darker, do all the things you would typically do, but it's a really good neutral starting point, especially if you're finding that some of your images are coming across too bright. Now, part of what's powering the new Linear plus Gamma profile is a completely retooled brightness algorithm. The old brightness algorithm had some limitations. It was called midtone adjustments, and I've updated that to brightness. And this new brightness algorithm does a much better job of allowing you to get some dynamic range in terms of how dark or how bright you want the image to be. And it interacts a lot better with the other tonal tools. So it's acting differently than lights and darks, whites and blacks, but it interacts with them really nicely to where you can start to get anywhere from that really rich, gritty look to a very bright, pastel-y look. It's all possible now with the new brightness slider. Now, one thing to be aware of is if you had previously used the brightness slider, and let's say you come in here and it had been set all the way to -50, when you start editing something, it's going to well, in this case, it's not updating at all. See, and that's just because this is kind of thrown it off. So if you see this happen, yeah, just reset the brightness where you want it, and then everything else will start working again. So just something to be aware of. Watch out for cases where your previous brightness settings are throwing things off because the scale has changed. I should also mention there's a new color model that's been added for people who are using a DSLR camera setup, and that color model is basic. So the basic color model, it's still going to have the Negative Lab Pro profile, but it's going to, instead of trying to emulate one of these old lab scanners, which tend to have kind of golden and teal leanings, the basic color model will be a little bit more, I would say, accurate in color. So if you're concerned about color accuracy, the basic color model is probably the way to go. Although I find that I still like the Frontier and Noritsu because I feel like it's a little bit more of what I would expect from film. So this is with the basic and this is with the Frontier. you can make virtual copies and compare them if you want. I still prefer the Frontier, but a number of users wanted something that was more neutral than that, and you can get that by using the basic color model. A number of users also suggested that there be the ability to make a JPEG copy instead of just a TIFF copy. Most times actually a JPEG copy should be enough because you've already done kind of the heavy lifting on the RAW. So unless you plan to make really extreme changes, you probably have enough information in the JPEG and you can save some space. So you can now make a JPEG copy, and you can also do multiple copies at once if you want to inside of the library module. So I've just made a positive JPEG copy there, and so now I could come in here and make changes to hues if I wanted to. I do basically all the things that I would typically do inside of Lightroom in the way that I would typically do them. So if you find yourself wanting to use the regular Lightroom tools to make further adjustments after you've made your adjustments in Negative Lab Pro, you can do that now on a TIFF or a JPEG. Windows users will be happy to see that there is now a hotkey that you can use. The hotkey will be something that you have to install separately, and I'll post another video that shows you all the instructions for that. There's also instructions included in the download, but it works really great once you have it up and running. Here I am inside of Windows, and I can just pop that up, make some adjustments, and hit apply. If I want to go back, I can just hit it again. The shortcut key for most languages is going to be Control-Alt-N, which is the closest I could get to Control-N, which is the shortcut for Mac. In some language settings, that will be a little bit different just because that combination wasn't available, and that will be included in the instructions in the download. I've also updated the camera model support to be up to date with Lightroom 8. So if you have one of the cameras on this list, your camera is now supported. In terms of things that I'm still working on, a lot of users have asked for the ability to create and save their own presets inside of Negative Lab Pro. That's something that I'm working on and will be coming. A number of traditional like flatbed scanner users have been asking for a greater control and profiling of those scanners, and that's also something that's being worked on. So expect to see those in future versions. And if you have any other suggestions of things that you want to see inside of Negative Lab Pro, you can either drop a comment below, or you can head over to the private Facebook group and we can have a discussion about it there.